Hello and welcome to another podcast of TomBecka.com, where everyone's exceptional, everyone has a story to tell, and this guy's got a story. He goes by the name of Lash LaRue. His real name is Larry Dunn. He's a musician, kind of a rockabilly musician with tattoos all over his body. He might be the last person you would think would be a man that would also go and provide Christmas presents for some of the poorest kids in the Northern Hemisphere. He's a man that has, maybe lived a bit of a life and said it was time to tone it down a notch. He talks about that. He talks about a spiritual journey. And he talks about just being himself. A man that I respect. A man that shows what one person can do when they want to help somebody. What one person can do when they see a problem and think they can be a solution. So I started off by asking Larry, a.k.a. Lash, how would he define himself?
I think musician, probably, first and foremost. Sometimes professional, sometimes not. But that's the one thing that's been a constant throughout my whole life. And as of a year ago, I now describe myself as a dad. So that's new. I don't know. I guess I haven't.
But I would also throw in there humanitarian.
Yeah, well,
that
sounds a little highfalutin.
But it's not though. I want to get to that because we'll get to that a little bit later on. But that's how I first really. I knew of you from your music.
Yeah.
But I got to know you personally through your charity work.
Right.
And I sort of get to that because you are a musician, and you weren't necessarily a musician of what would be traditionally popular music. You weren't.
Right.
You weren't in a band doing cover songs of Britney Spears.
No, not at all.
How would you describe your music?
Roots music, rockabilly, blues, some big country influence. I think roots music is kind of the genre that encompasses all of that.
Okay, and so you had a band, and you were being a musician, and you were enjoying the musician's life.
Yes, I was. I was enjoying it a little too much most of the time. Indeed.
You got some stories to tell?
Yes, and some that I shouldn't.
But then about maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, you started doing some charity work for the Native Americans up in Pine Ridge.
Right, 11 years ago.
11 years ago.
This was the 11th year. Yeah.
Okay, so where do you go from being the rockabilly roots music musician, playing the bars, having a few drinks, living your life? How do you go from that guy to the guy that all of a sudden now is like concerned about poor Indian children that aren't even going to get a Christmas?
Yeah, that's a lot of people have asked that question.
Yeah,
kind of a roundabout way. I was living the musician lifestyle. And doing some pretty destructive things, into drinking and cocaine real heavily, and even before that, throughout my life, I'd always been. Maybe we'll go back even a little farther. I wasn't raised in any religion, but I was raised by my mother, especially to look at them all to find what works for you, and I was kind of an outcast all my life, and so I was always sort of searching for something like to make myself feel better inside. That ended up being drugs for a long time, but I had been exposed to a lot of different spiritualities. The Native American spirituality always kind of spoke to me, and but it was always something you read about in a book. And so, long story short, I would read a lot about it and think that's cool. One night while it was I was reading through a little newspaper thing that Metro Tech sends out on their classes, and they had basket weaving and just stuff that's not credit classes. And there was one on Native American spirituality, and so I thought, hey, I should go take that. It's a one-night deal. I went and took it, and the funny part is it was a Thursday, and in those days, Thursdays were the night that was the night that the cocaine shipment would come in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was like a regular shipment.
Well, that's when my dealer would get
his
their
stuff.
shipment.
Yeah.
Wow. And so it was, but it was always a matter of waiting to go up the street here where the CVS is now and pick it up. And so this class was on a Thursday, but it was at 7. So I thought, I'll go take that, then I can go take care of business. Things are good.
I'll do a little spirituality thing and then catch a bus.
Right.
Yeah,
well, and I was having little short stints of trying to get sober. Knew that things were bad for me in that realm, and so I was having little stints here and there and just kind of searching for something.
Was these spirituality classes you were taking, was that to deal with the cocaine, to deal with the booze?
Well, I think it was to deal with me. I think the cocaine and the booze was more to deaden whatever it was I was missing inside. That's I don't know. We're getting real deep here now.
No, yeah. You can tell as much or as little as you want about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think a lot of people who end up doing that, there's something inside that they're missing, and they use that to sort of make up for it. And so it was the two kind of dovetailed in a really strange way. So anyway, I took this class, and it was just a one-night deal, and it was pretty basic and pretty just kind of surface type stuff. But the guy was a Lakota guy who taught the class, and I got to talking to him after the class, and he invited me to go to a sweat lodge that weekend, and so I did. And
now, people that don't know, what is a sweat lodge?
Sweat lodge is kind of the most basic of the Lakota ceremonies. There's 7 big Lakota ceremonies. It's kind of the first one. It's like a little hut, for lack of a better word. It's made out of sticks. Looks like an igloo, but not made out of ice. It's covered with, in the old days, they would cover it with buffalo skins. Now they use tarps. They take heated rocks and bring them in and put them inside, and like a sauna times 100, really hot.
What's the purpose of it?
The purpose of it is it's a purification ceremony, and basically the purpose is praying. They bring the rocks in. There's certain spiritual songs they sing, and there's a drum, and they pour water on these hot rocks, and it's really, really hot, and it's really hard to do, and it's a purification for your mind, body, and spirit, and it's a prayer, and so I went to that first one and was hooked immediately.
Okay, now were you going there with an open mind? I mean, did you want this, or were you doing it because it was like, something to do? I mean,
I was super interested, actually. And, when this guy invited me, I'd read about things like that before. I'd read about a lot of these ceremonies when I was younger. And so when this guy invited me, I couldn't believe that I was going to get to go. I was really, and in spite of the other parts of my life, I was really respectful of this. And I knew that it was a big deal for me to be able to go and experience it. And so it wasn't just... I was really, really interested in it.
So you say you were hooked, and so now you're really starting to pay attention to Native American spirituality.
Right. So I started going there, and in the meantime, I don't know, over the course of a year or something, I finally did get sober, and was going there regularly every week. After about 8 months, I became the firekeeper for that lodge. The person who starts the fire and heats the rocks, and it's kind of, so I started kind of learning more and more. From there, the guy who runs that sweat lodge introduced me to a medicine man on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I started going up there and doing the next big ceremony, which is Vision Quest. You go and the medicine man puts you on the top of a hill or top of a mountain, and you sit there for 4 days and 4 nights with no food or water, and you just pray. And sounds a lot easier than it is.
It doesn't sound that easy to begin with, yeah.
And that really, really changed my life.
When you pray, now, you said you weren't raised in traditional religion, but
right.
When you pray, are you praying to an Indian god? Are you praying to Jesus Christ, to Buddha, to Allah? I mean,
yes.
Okay, all right.
is the way I look at it. A lot of the native traditions boil down to... like in the Lakota, the word for God is Wakantanka, which Great Spirit. Another translation is the Great Mystery. Most of the Native American traditions will tell you, we can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's there, and you might want to get down with it. You might want to make some sort of a connection there. Uh-huh. And so to me, yeah, I'm talking all those. I'm
much like the higher power in 12-step program. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever that God is to you, that's what the God is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's and this is weird because I don't talk about this a lot anymore, so I'm not used to talking about this. But for you, I'll do it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know what it is, but I know that it's there, and I know that it works. And I know that if I do the things that I need to do, that it takes care of me.
What about now? You're going to the sweat lodge. You're going to these Indian ceremonies. Are you being accepted? I mean, you know, you're a white guy, a musician with all these tattoos,
right?
Going up to Pine Ridge and going up to the Indian reservations. Are you being welcomed and accepted, or are you being looked at kind of like with a jaded eye, like, who is this guy?
Completely looked at with a jaded eye. Yeah. It took a few years of going up there before some of the guys would talk to me, today I understand that because there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? People can't agree amongst themselves up there whether white people should be allowed to do this or not. And some medicine men will let a white guy come, some won't. And so when you go for ceremony, you never really quite know who you're going to be around. You find out real fast.
Right.
But after a few years, I kind of proved myself because you'll see people call them tourists. You know, they'll go and they'll do it and they'll kind of halfway get through it and then leave and you never see them again. And so once you show that you're committed and that you can do it, that makes a bit of a difference. Today, I'm almost more on the side of, white people shouldn't be allowed. Because I've seen plenty of people who don't respect it.
Right.
And go there and take and it's just about taking and what they can get, and there's no respect, and they go home and I've seen a lot of people go and do the ceremonies, and they go home and they give themselves an Indian name, and they all of a sudden they're a spiritual healer, and
right, and charging for that.
Exactly,
right,
exactly. And so that's the kind of stuff why they look at the white people doing that in a bad way, and in a lot of ways I agree with them.
Okay, so now you're going through this. You're going through your own spiritual journey.
Yeah,
and all the while, and now you're going up to the reservation on a regular basis.
Right.
And you realize that, because people that don't know, Pine Ridge, next to Haiti, is the poorest spot in the northern hemisphere, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's definitely the poorest spot in America, poorest counties in America, right there, and it's eye opening when you go up there. It's amazing the poverty that you see. And we've talked about this before too. It's amazing. It's like third world conditions, poverty. But what's also amazing to me is the hearts of the people, and that they will take you in, and they got nothing but here, come in and eat with us. It's amazing. The generosity is unbelievable.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's just the way they are. It's you don't see that a lot other places. It's weird. I think a lot of that is because of their traditional culture, and their spiritual view. It's amazing.
So now you're there and you see the poverty, and you see little kids,
right? And
it's getting close to Christmas time.
Yeah, well, this was actually when I first came up with the idea to do it. Excuse me. It was summertime. I became a sun dancer. The sun dance is the biggest ceremony. 11 years ago, I became a sun dancer, and I went and did the sun dance ceremony. And a big part of all the ceremonies is what they call wopilets. Thank you. After a sweat lodge, there's a meal. People all bring a meal. There's always giving back. Always a thanks. And I remember talking to the medicine man, and we were talking about the kids, and he had told me about how he's been trying to get toys for the kids at Christmas time because most of these kids get nothing. And that just stuck with me because the kids are just beautiful. The kids everywhere are beautiful,
right.
And innocent and sweet. And so you see that. And but he was talking about that. And so as I came home, and that was like August, so I came home and was thinking about it. And, it's just kind of what, excuse me. It's just kind of what musicians do. We hold benefits. We've talked about this before too. So I thought, I bet I can do something. I can try. And I got a few of my friends together, and we had a show at Mix, which is a place used to be up in Benson and gone now. And that first year, we just, we printed up some cheesy little flyers, and it was just not a big deal. But for some reason, it touched a lot of people's hearts when they heard about it, and the place was packed. And we raised like $500. We went to Walmart and bought toys. People donated a lot of toys. And I thought it was the greatest amount of toys I'd ever seen. We had a pickup truck with a camper shell. My friend Steve had the truck, and we jam-packed that thing full of toys. And I thought, holy cow, that's the most awesome amount of toys I've ever seen. And we drove them up there, and there was a community center up there that's now been torn down, but we had they brought the kids in there, and they had a guy dress up like Santa and gave the toys to the kids, and it was just unbelievable. It was, and I've told this story a million times, but there was one little kid who obviously had been told Santa doesn't, there's nothing for Christmas.
Yeah, it doesn't come there,
don't come here. And I remember he got a toy, and he looked up at his mom, and he said, "See, Mommy, I told you Santa wouldn't forget me." And, you're done then.
Yeah, I mean, oh, God, yeah. Because these kids don't have a lot of hope. They don't see a lot of hope. And so you gave that kid hope.
Yeah. Well, and that's, we've had a lot of people over the years have said, well, giving these kids toys doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. And I've told this story also. I've got a million stories. We could be here all night.
Okay, we got time.
But there was, this was just last year, there was a little girl. We had, let me back up a little bit. Somebody had donated a teddy bear that was about 5 feet tall, huge teddy bear. And it was kind of too big of a toy just to throw in with the rest to give out. And so we asked the teacher at the school, I said, is there one kid who needs a little extra pick-me-up, a kid who's having a hard time or whatever? And they said, oh, we know just the girl, and brought her in. And we gave her this teddy bear, and she had tears in her eyes, and it was amazing. And this little girl sent me a letter a month or so later and talked about how much she loved this teddy bear. And one line in this letter, she said, "He takes away my nightmares and makes everything okay." And that's when I don't tell me it doesn't make a difference getting a kid a toy.
Yeah.
And I don't have any idea what this girl's nightmares are. I can only imagine because I know the statistics on the reservation, but there's a lot of nightmares up there.
Just with the poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, there's also domestic violence. Sexual
abuse it's like one of the highest rates in the country up there.
So when you give these toys, and by the way, this started out, what you said, 11 years ago with $500 worth of toys.
Right.
Which had to be a lot of fun that first time, just going to Walmart and buying toys and toys and toys.
It was the greatest thing ever.
Give people an idea now how it has grown.
Well, now Mack Truck Leasing of Omaha gives me a 24-foot Mack truck, and we fill that thing full of toys. So it's changed a lot.
Okay, and you say one toy can't do anything, but same thing with one person. You were just one person who had an idea and a dream, and you got other people to buy into it and to work with you, and now you're providing all these toys. But it's even more than that, because you're not just doing that, you're also providing money for heat.
Right.
Yeah.
After the first couple of years, it just grew and grew every year. And after the first few years, we were making too much money to just buy toys. It was going to be, giving 48 toys to each kid. And that doesn't do any good. That's going the wrong direction. So one of the other things, every spring I hear so-and-so's grandma froze to death in the wintertime. And again, that's just ridiculous in America. Nobody should freeze to death. Yeah. And so we thought we got this extra money, was going to start buying propane for the elders. And so some of the local people would just call me and say, "Look, I know that so-and-so is out of propane. Could you help?" "You bet I can. We'll fill up the tank." And there was one guy, I got a call from a lady who was a nurse at the clinic, and she said, this guy just got discharged from the hospital. They got a kidney transplant. They're sending him home now. It was like 3 days later after a kidney transplant. You know how hospitals are. It's ridiculous. He had no propane, so they're going to send him home to recuperate, and it's like January.
In a freezing house.
Yeah, with no way to heat the house. So I'm proud of that kind of stuff.
You've also done scholarships to help with schools.
We help the school out. We buy books for the school. If there's a school called Our Lady of Lourdes in Porcupine, and it's actually a Catholic school, and they pay to go to that school. There's public schools, but this is a really, really good school, and which I always scratched my noggin about that. I said, who's coming up with tuition on the res? And so I talked to the principal of the school, and she said, well, it's $100 a year. and which is nothing here in Omaha. You
Right.
send your kid to a private school here. I don't know what it is.
Thousands, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch. But she said, some parents will pay like $4 or $6 a month or every 6 weeks just to get their kids to go here. So I said, okay, well, you got kids that want to come here and can't afford it? Not anymore. Just you call me.
That is amazing to understand that people just, here's $4. Can you send my kid to school?
Right. And they have public schools there.
Yeah, but again, how do you break that cycle? Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing I love about this school, and that's why I really like helping them. This particular school up there, the dropout rate is enormous. I didn't bring figures or anything with me tonight because I just thought we're just going to talk.
Sure, yeah.
But the dropout rate, it's crazy. But this particular school, it's a K through 8 school, and then they go on to the Red Cloud High School in the town of Pine Ridge. This particular school, it was something like 94% of the kids who graduate go on to the high school, and it was like 96% of the kids who graduate Red Cloud High School go to college. And a kid going to the college from the reservation is huge, and that's where the real change is going to happen.
Now, when the kid goes to college, do they come back to the reservation to be a role model and to teach, or do they say, "I got my ass out of here, adios"?
I don't know, but I, from what I know of the people and the people that I've seen, and just the way the culture is, I think most of them are coming back and helping.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Now, you started off this whole conversation talking about the spirituality in the church, and I guess it's not really called a church, is it? I mean,
no, it's
but the spirituality, but then you talk about all the poverty. You hear all the poverty and that's there.
right.
Do the prayers, does the spirituality give these people hope? I mean, or is it just a way to like pass some time because they got nothing else to do there on the reservation?
It's interesting because I've thought about, and as much faith as I have, I question stuff all the time. Because it's like, God, if you're so strong with your spirituality, how come aren't you praying for some money? Get me out of here. I don't think it really works that way. The thing that I can say, and I should have prefaced this earlier. I'm no expert on Lakota spirituality or Lakota culture. I'm speaking from my point of view. For anybody who's listening, this is just from things that I've seen. Because there's a lot of people that want to be an expert on it, and I don't. This is just me. But I see it grounds them, and I don't think they look at it. They don't look at it in what's this getting me. They look at it in this is part of my life, and this is But then even deeper, so many of them that I know that live there that are just living in poverty and third world conditions almost. They don't think about it, and they're not really mad about it. It's just kind of like this is what it is. And I remember the medicine man talked to me about it one time. He said, he was talking about a lot of people who come and want to take part in the ceremonies and stuff. He said, the real way to be Lakota is just to accept. He said, that's part of being Lakotas. This is what we have and this is what we do. And we don't really worry about it all that much. We take what comes and we're happy for it.
There are no jobs up there.
No, nothing.
Could there be?
I don't know.
I've driven through that part of South Dakota before, and it's pretty desolate.
It's real desolate. There's a lot of ranching that goes on, but it's all white ranchers from somewhere else leasing the land. I don't know. A lot of people ask me, what's the answer for up there? Creating jobs, doing this, doing that. And I really don't know. There's so many facets to it. I'm not the guy... and I don't want to be the guy to do it. I'm just, I'm doing what I can in my little niche to try to make things a little bit nicer, but I don't know what the big answer is in the big scheme.
Yeah.
And I think some of the problem is it's just gone on so long, it's just been happening this way up there so long, and nobody, I don't know. I just don't know the answer.
Have you, now that I've done this for 11 years or so, I'm thinking you saw kids that were 6, 7, 8 years old the first year.
Yeah, and now they're surly teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. Now they're 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Have they remember you? What sort of stories do they tell you? What happens now when you go there and sorry, Timmy, you're not that cute little kid anymore, yeah, you're an adult now. Deal with it, And,
it's funny. I haven't had any sort of interactions like that because from when I started going, some of them were kind of teenagers now. Maybe they were 12 and maybe they're 20. They're at that stage now where they don't want to talk to this old guy.
Right, yeah.
Maybe later on as they get a little older, they might have some memory, but a 16, 18-year-old Lakota guy, he don't want to talk to me. Doesn't matter if I brought him a toy a few years back.
Now, you told me a couple of months ago that you would drive towards the reservation and there would be like a mountain of clothes off the side of the road.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, excuse me. I'm one of thousands, if not maybe tens of thousands of people trying to help on the reservation. And I got my eyes opened a lot this year by one of the guys at the school who was helping me facilitate going to the other schools to start giving out. There's groups from all over the country that are trying to help out. And just because you want to help out doesn't mean you know how to help out. This year, we used to take coats and clothes. And last year, I had to throw out as much stuff as I took because people were just dumping crap on me, for lack of a better word. And, they're poor. They're not stupid.
Right. I was used to joke about like canned food drives. Having a canned food drive, and all of a sudden, these poor people are getting like, canned pumpkin pie filling.
Yeah, and here's the lima beans and all the crap nobody else wants.
Corn. Yeah.
There was last year a lot of people were dumping stuff like that on me, and I ended up filling a few dumpsters full of stuff that people, I'm sure they meant well. They probably meant well. And going through and everybody throws the clothes and stuff in garbage bags and to donate them, and going through all these garbage bags of stuff that I didn't want to take up and give away, I found an actual bag of garbage.
Really?
Yeah. So
somebody's put a bag of garbage in there with all the other stuff just to get out of their house.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't malicious on anybody's part, but it really brought the point home. It's like, we don't just give them our garbage. And so there's people all over the country doing that. And so, it's about, I don't know, it's maybe 2 miles north of the border from Nebraska. There's a place where every year we go, and it looks like a landfill. The pile is so huge of bags of clothes and just trash bags full of stuff that somebody, I don't know, apparently just brought a trailer up and dumped it there and which to me is demeaning also. Here's a big, go rifle through this big pile of crap and see what you can find.
Yeah.
That's not right. So this year I put my foot down. I said, we're not taking clothes. We're going to, I sort of needed to pull back a little bit, back to the original intent, which was the toy drive and then the propane fund. And because one organization can't serve all their needs.
Right, yeah.
And you can't serve any needs well if you're trying to serve all of them.
Do you coordinate it with people there on the reservation? Or do you just sort of like show up and it's like, oh, hey.
Oh, no, I definitely coordinate. There's been times where we would go up and just have like a public sort of thing. And as it got bigger, that got worse. And when you're in that poor of a situation and you're giving out free things, it can get a little ugly at times. And so we had to, every year's a learning process. We had to kind of rein that in a little bit. And so now what we do is we just go to the schools. And I hate to say this, but if you take the parents and the adults out of the equation and just get children, it's so much better.
Uh-huh.
So it was just us and the kids and giving the kids toys. And the kids are never greedy. The parents would get greedy. The kids don't. No, it's, one toy per kid. They never say a word. They're grateful for it. The parents get really greedy.
Now,
and I think that's anywhere. That's that's not something I'm saying about Lakota people. That's just people anywhere.
Yeah, but I've having been in radio a bunch of years. When you start giving away free T-shirts or something,
right?
Yeah, it's
people
like
go crazy.
it's a free. Lady, you're a triple edged cell. This is a small. I still want it. Yeah.
So we had a couple of years that were not as joyous because of things like that. But like I said, we learn every year, and we've now just going to the schools makes it all so much better, more organized.
Now, you've been doing this for 11 years. Notice any improvement? Are things better? Are they worse? The same?
I don't notice any improvement. I wish I could say I did, but I don't. And I don't know where it's going to come from.
Do they want to get better? Or is that just that's what they know, and so therefore it's their comfort zone?
They want to get better. And I hear them talk about it all the time. Unfortunately, I hear mostly the older folks up there talk about it. We need jobs. We need, something to do. The kids are like kids everywhere, especially teenagers, the young men who could probably make a big difference. Gangs up there are huge. It's no different than what's happening. You hear people talking a lot about North Omaha, right here in town. It's like, again, man, I just don't know the answer, but I haven't seen it get better.
So if you're not seeing it get better, do you feel sometimes like it's just an exercise in futility on your part to be doing all this? This takes a lot of work. What you do takes a lot of work.
Yeah, there's times I get discouraged. I mean, I wouldn't be human if I didn't. And usually about the time January rolls around and I'm just beat from 2-3 months of planning and preparation and doing and all that, usually every January I say, I'm never doing this again. By the time summer rolls around, I get over that. But yeah, it can be discouraging. It definitely can be. But how do you stop?
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm not that familiar with the Lakota, but I spent a number of years in the Four Corners area. Yeah, with the Navajo, and people that have never seen that don't understand the abject poverty. Yeah, I mean, I know of situations in New Mexico and Colorado where the reservation would be on one side of the highway and the bar would be on the other side of the highway. Yeah, and you'd have to watch if you're driving that highway late at night because the Native Americans would be coming out of the bar so drunk, the highway would be, the air would be cold, but the highway would be warm, and so they would just lay down on the highway to sleep. And, I mean, it was not uncommon for some truck to be driving down the road and boom, hits him because he's laying there in the street. Yeah. People don't understand the poverty. Yeah. And again, I don't have the answer either. I wish I did. I mean, education is the answer.
I think so.
Jobs, hope, that's the answer. But if your culture has been this all your life, how do you instill that?
Well, there was a priest up there that actually was talking to me about that this year. He said, you need to think when you're doing these things, you need to think about what message you're sending. Are you just another person just giving them stuff and keeping them in the cycle of gimme, gimme, gimme? And I'm not going to do anything about it. He's like, I don't think that's the answer. And I don't think it is either, and we talked to the kids about why we're there and what we're doing and about hope. Right. And, but, that's, my eyes were opened a lot this year with seeing, the piles of clothing and all these other things where it's like, in some ways it doesn't, it's not helping them just by giving them stuff because you get so used to, you get into that culture, that welfare culture, and why should I do anything more?
On the other hand, you're providing heat. Right. You're providing, education. You're providing.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm not saying I'm doing bad, but I'm just saying that I don't. Again, I guess what I'm really saying is I just don't know the darn answer. Yeah. But I don't have a problem with keeping a 70-year-old woman in heating in February.
You probably have to look at all these things and just take solace in the victories.
Exactly.
Because if you looked at really what was going on all the way around you and the poverty and the abuse and the drugs and all of that, if you looked at that, it'd probably be too depressing. But when you realize that, I saved that life. I helped that kid. I did this.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to focus on that. That somebody stayed warm. I mean, it was just last month I heard someone on the Standing Rock Reservation died, froze to death, ran out of propane, froze to death. So, and that's not a reservation I know much about, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah,
there you go. That's maybe we. I don't. I'm not saving anybody's life, but maybe we kept somebody alive.
You talked about the gangs on the reservation.
Yeah.
Is it is it like a Crips and a Blood sort of thing? In other words, is it all drug related, or is it just young kids that have nowhere else to go and they're hanging out and fighting for turf? What is it?
I can't really speak to that. I don't know. I think it's more the latter, but I don't know enough about that the gang culture up there to speak about it at all.
Okay, so but that with poverty, you're going to find a lot of the same problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there, for somebody that's never been there, somebody that's never experienced what you've experienced, and I'm going to go and talk about the spirituality that you get from them, the warmth you get from the people, what they teach and everything, or somebody that's never been to the reservation and seen the poverty and the destruction. How do you reconcile the whole thing, and how would you explain this to them to get them to understand why this has such an appeal to you?
Why this has an appeal to me?
Yeah. Why it speaks to you so much? I mean, you're a musician, who was looking for something.
Yeah.
Looking to fill the hole. The cocaine wasn't working anymore.
Right.
You could have tried Catholicism, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of isms you could have gone down the line. You chose, the spirituality of the Lakota tribe. What is it that spoke to you that maybe some of the other more traditional religions didn't speak?
I'm not really sure. The main American religion, Christianity, has never really spoken to me. It's I think maybe just because I wasn't raised in it. It's funny because I don't remember learning about the Lakota spirituality, but I knew about it from an early age. So I'm going to get really all the way new agey out there now, but it just always felt like something that I was supposed to be doing. It felt natural for me.
You say you weren't raised in it. You have a young daughter now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to raise her in this, or what? What do you do with her?
Well, she's yeah, I don't know. I'm still learning how to be a dad, and luckily she's young enough now. I think I'm going to raise her the same way my mom raised me with it, and just say, I believe that there is a God, and this is the way that I choose to worship this God. This is the way that I choose to commune with this God for myself. There are many different ways to do it, and if you want to follow my path, that's great. If you want to, you should maybe acquaint yourself with all of them, and whatever speaks to you is what you should do. I think my mom did a good job raising me that way, and I think I'll try to pass it along to.
Now, your wife, was she also into the Native American spirituality, or was that something
she wasn't? No, that's something she didn't know much about until she met me and got interested in it after meeting me, and so she would come. She would come to the Sweat Lodge with me, and she ended up coming to Sundance with me also for a few years and being a part of that and supporting me in that. And
the friends that you knew from the old days,
yeah,
how do they react to the spiritual?
Well, in the old days, they thought I was crazy.
Yeah. So it's the same then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, but they, I think they've always been fairly supportive, though. It's. I always had some good friends who, in my tough times, they supported me. If things were fine, they partied with me.
Yeah.
But
on Thursday nights.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just I think I've always been a little bit different. So I guess it probably didn't really.
What I love about this story, though, is too often I hear from people, and they say, "Well, whether it be like one vote." Or I'm just one person. What can I do? Yeah. And it's an excuse for most people.
Yeah.
I'm just one person. What can I do? It's an excuse for them not to be involved.
Right.
Okay? You said, I'm one person. What can I do? And you did it. You continued to do it. And it grew into quite an impressive operation.
Yeah. I never really gave it that kind of thought, though. I didn't think to myself, well, I can't, I'm just one person, or even though I'm only one person, I can do it. You know, there wasn't that much thought that went into what I did. I heard about it. I thought I can help. It sounded like something that'd be great to do. And so I did it. You know, I just didn't really, I didn't give it that much thought. You know? I get a lot of pats on the back for it these days, but it's not like I really sat down and went, how can I be a humanitarian? How can I make a change? I wasn't thinking that way. I was just thinking, well, there's some kids who need toys. You know,
Saw a need? Let me fill it.
Yeah, you know. So, and the beauty of it is that it's become more work over the years, but really it's not work, because this is a bunch of musicians who go and play shows, and we had albums for 4 years. We sold locally written and produced albums. This is all a bunch of guys who love to play music and love to record and write songs. All we're doing is doing what we love to do anyway, and then it helps somebody out. And then the people who come, they buy a CD, they get some great music, they come, they have a great time, they feel good about bringing a toy. I've always said it's not that big a deal. Everybody's having a great time. And there's been times in the recording studio when all the bands are there and we're doing all this where we think, good golly, this is like benefiting us more than anybody, because we just have such a great time.
I found that to be true, though, of any giving. You know, whenever you go and help somebody else, you really are helping yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the great, I don't know, dichotomy, I guess, you know?
Right.
Is that, I'm here to help you, but really, no, I'm helping myself.
The more you get out, it's one thing that I've learned from doing the ceremonies that I've done. The more you get out of yourself, the more you get back. It's an interesting. It's not, you know, it's like opposite of what you think, but it works. You know, so it's. I always say, you don't give till it hurts. You give till it feels good. You know, and it works out that way, and everybody kind of has a good time with it.
Thank you, Lash, not only for doing the podcast, but also for the work you're doing with those kids, the changes you're making in their lives, giving them a little bit of hope in an area that has very, very, very little hope. Hey, if you like the podcast, if you like what we're doing here, would you do me a favor and spread the word? Tell your friends, let them know this is the place to be. Every Sunday, we're going to introduce you to a new person with an interesting story to tell. Right here on TomBecka.com.